Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to say hello and welcome to ASHFORD GARLEY Live on this beautiful Wednesday night as we come to you from Detroit. Folks, as always, please allow me to borrow the words of the wise man. Tough times don't last. Tough people do. And the heart of a man is never known until he rises, because there's no second chance to make that first impression. And when you see catfish come from underneath the water and say the crocodile he's sweating, please don't say that lie, because a bald-headed man does not walk on the moonlight and trust no shadow in the dark. This is the medicine of the microphone, the golden voice of Liberia, the broadcast commissioner. As for the giant, and now you know me call it. Welcome. The most eruptible volcano SHELTON. V, hello, my man. Welcome to the show.
Did I get it right?
It's Jre.
Oh, Jre.
That's right. That's the name.
There you go. There you go. Finally, I got it. Okay. Listen, good to be back here tonight. ASHFORD, nowhere better to be right now, because I can tell you the topic tonight is going to blow our listeners' minds, our viewers' minds, and we hope that everyone can be glued. Invite a friend, get the popcorn, like you say, get something to drink.
That's right.
Because tonight's topic is off the hook, like the American man say. It's off the chain. And surely we're going to be talking here tonight. We hope that our callers will chime in, come and let's have this discussion, because it impacts our country to the very core. And something has to be done for Liberia to move forward. So
that's right. And folks, if you just join, like Shelton just said, grab something to drink, get the popcorn rolling. And just in case you're celebrating your birthday tonight, I'd like to say congratulations. And let us show hope that you live to see many, many more birthdays to come. If this is your first time here, please don't be selfish. All right. Invite a few friends. Just hit the share button. Follow us so that the next time we come here, you will get some type of notification. We're also live on YouTube, and want to say a big thank you to our YouTube subscribers. You know, subscribers, you guys are doing extremely well in terms of getting information firsthand. So continue to subscribe to Bridge Radio Africa via YouTube, and of course, you're doing such an awesome job. Shelton, big things are happening for Bridge Radio Africa, and it is just from the blessing of God. You know?
It's just one component. It's just one component of the big things to happen. Put it that way. One component.
And again, I've said this to folks. Pray. Don't be too proud to pray, because prayer can change things, man. You know, I was just looking at a Facebook post from my brother-in-law, Mr. Foma, the other day. And he said, ASHFORD, look, Bridge Radio, 7 years ago, who would have thought we were going to be in this position today? And Shelton, you can have all the ideas, man, you know, but when you don't have the financial backings, you're going nowhere, you know, and it is only God that we can sing praises to. for getting us in this position. And great things. We're not going to let the cat out of the bag yet, but great things are beginning to happen for Bridge Radio Africa. And I want to say a big thank you to our fans, our followers, our members, and viewers for what you do on a daily basis just to sit behind your computer, your Mac, the cell phone, to just hit the share button and tell somebody else about what is it that Bridge Radio Africa is doing. So amazing, man. We appreciate you for that, and may God continue to bless you, bless all of you. Shelton, conflict of interest is something that is big when it comes to our country. Now, we're going to take a look at a few issues here tonight as it relates to conflict of interest. Now, public officials hold positions of authority, in most instances, in areas of their assignments, but tend to establish or do personal business in these areas. They also hire their families and relatives in these institutions. Such behavior is one of the drivers, of rampant corruption, which continues to erode development and equality, and quality livelihood for the people of Liberia. Shelton, what do you make of this?
That's the experiential theme that is trending in Liberia and has gone on for a long, long time, even from the inception of our country. But let's look at what the definition of the Oxford English Dictionary says about conflict of interest. It is a situation in which a person is in a position to derive personal benefit. You see, it says personal benefit from actions or decisions made in their official capacity. So that's the first thing. When conflict of interest takes place, it is a personal benefit to the aggrandizement of that person who has the power, okay, to make those decisions that benefits them. But it further goes on to say that a conflict of interest, an example, will involve a person or entity that has two relationships competing with each other for the person's loyalty. A minister who works for the government of Liberia, for instance, the education minister, who's supposed to be concerned about imparting the quality of education being imparted to the students of Liberia, is concerned about opening his personal school and having loyalty to that school. And so then it becomes a competition between the government of Liberia and the family's business. That's conflict of interest, definition, and an example. This is what pervading our culture has gone on for centuries. And we think that the people who have cried corruption over the years, who come to power, will do something about it. To come back and do nothing, and to join these same people and turn the blind eye. And who suffers? The Liberian people. The Liberian people continue to suffer, and this brews rampant corruption, because if conflict of interest is everywhere in every sector of the country, then it deprives the people their livelihood, it deprives the country the development it needs, it deprives every sector of society. And this is what's happening today as we speak under President Weah, who knows better, who frowned on those things in the past and said he would do everything to shape up this country. But conflict of interest is even currently going on with his wife, who has declared we are foundation when she should be, according to our customary history, the woman who's taking care of the group of 77. Is it because she wants her name to be engraved in our country's archive and history? What is happening to the group of 77? We have thousands of people handicapped all over the country begging to survive when we have put nothing to shape those people. So this is just an example. And we have a slew of examples here tonight we can talk about.
Okay. Speaking of examples, Shelton, it is alleged that the current Minister of Education, Mr. Ansu Soni, is the owner of a top-notch private high school while currently sitting as education minister. Now, this was affirmed by a Liberian educator, Blancandy Jackson, the other night when he served as a guest on our show. He further asserted that many higher ups at the Ministry of Education own their own private institutions. At the same time, work for the government of Liberia in the same field, the Ministry of Education. Conflict of interest. Shelton.
And again, that didn't come from us. It comes from a person who does work for the Ministry of Education, as he's put it. He also served as assistant minister. He's currently a consultant and has consulted on many occasions with the Ministry of Education. And he frowned on the behavior because it doesn't help the country. It doesn't help the educational sector. In fact, backtrack. President Sirleaf claimed that the educational sector was a mess. Did she look at the variables that caused the educational sector to be a mess before making that open declaration? Did she go behind the scene to talk with her officials to say, why are we having this problem? Rather than just openly saying that. Conflict of interest can be a pertinent reason why there is a degree of the educational system being a mess. Because if the higher ups in the ministry have their own private schools, their attention would be to those private schools. And it's possible that they can funnel resources from the Ministry of Education for the greater country to the private entities. And that can create a mess.
And he went further to say that when you can perform at an institution that holds you to higher standards, then you may as well go somewhere else where they will accept you. And that's something that jive in with the former vice president of the Republic of Liberia, Harry Foma Moldovan. You say, if you think education is expensive, try ignorance. V.
So that's what we're talking about here. And there's no way around it. So some of the reasons why our educational system is a mess is because of what we see happening and trending in the country. He also mentioned, if you recalled, that a person who studies sociology, never been in a classroom, is also just a student coming from the University of Liberia, coming to be DEO, the District Education Officer, which means that you have a network of schools under your control. How do you run those schools when you have no educational background? But unfortunately, everyone goes to the Ministry of, to the University of Liberia wanting to be sociologist. And we have all these sociological issues in the country. So where are these people? Why are they not working with the Ministry of Health and Social Welfare, strategizing and forming, non-profit organization, governmental organization that can tackle the Zogos issue they're talking about, the drug abuse issue they're talking about, the sexual-based violence issue they're talking about. But you have all these sociologists misfitted, misplaced all over the country because of conflict of interest. And because you're my family member and now I'm the Minister of Education, I gave you a position. And that's what, trending.
Conflict of interest is not only unique to the Ministry of Education.
Oh, absolutely not.
It is reported that media institutions that the health minister, Wemina Jala, owns a private clinic, Hope for Women International, located on the A.B. Turbot Road in Painesville, and also has another branch on the Marshall Road in Montgomery County. You are the Minister of Health, for God's sake. You ask for medication from international organizations. The medications come to the country, intended for JFK and other government-run institutions, medical institutions. No, but because you have your private clinic, you take those medications, send them to your own private clinic, and tell the patients that we're out of drugs, but I can recommend this clinic to you on AB Turbot Road. I can recommend this clinic to you on the Marshall Road in Magibie County. Why are these people so wicked, Shelton?
And some of them also even have drugstores, and they can say, I can send you to my drugstore. They got more quality medication, whereas you're taking the medication from what you have meant for the people. And indeed, that's true. But not just only that. Let's assume the Minister of Health has as the chief medical officer at the John F. Kennedy Medical Center, where there's a lot of government facilities in place, ambulance and stuff like that. And her private clinic, the Women for Hope International, or Hope for Women rather International, has a grievous case that the clinic does not have the capacity to handle. She gets on the phone, calls her brother-in-law, Mr. Taylor, and say, please send the ambulance. I need to send somebody out to a Catholic hospital because they're more equipped. That's conflict of interest. You're just taking the government's ambulance to send it to your private clinic and take a patient who is paying you for the service to the John F. Kennedy Medical Center. But what if, and that's fuel, that's his driver time, but what if that ambulance had an accident? Who pays for it? Who replaces it? And now the John F. Kennedy Medical Center has no more ambulance because probably it was just the last one, and then the whole country is in a mess.
What Mr. James Talu just said, doctors in America have their own clinics. He then said that is conflict of interest as well.
Well, doctors in America, that's one of the things that they're encouraged to do, to create their own private practice. But if a doctor becomes what you would call the minister of or secretary, rather, the secretary of health, social services and health, then that's a conflict of interest. So what is encouraged in America is that doctors come from school, go through the residency. If they're capable of opening their internal practices or the specialized practices, they should do that. But they cannot go and hold a public position. They cannot go into the county, into the public hospital and become CEO or chief medical officer and still run those private clinic they have or their practices. It's impossible. It's not going to happen because the taxpayer are not going to allow that to happen. And so that person is missing the mark here.
I know that you just said the person is missing the mark, but haven't you heard about nurses here in America who will get drugs and go home and administer those drugs to help treat sick patients for their own use?
If they're caught, it's wrong. It's wrong, Ashford. If they're caught, it's outside of, because they may not even be capable of dispensing medication outside of the hospital. So I don't think that, that's possible. And if they're caught, they can go to jail. So come back to Liberia. Doctors and nurses and healthcare practitioners in our public institutions, like the John F. Kennedy Medical Center, the Redemption Hospital, taking medication from those places in the pharmacy, in the hospital, and taking it home. And now they become the community doctors. They're giving people injection and getting paid for it. You understand me? That's conflict of interest. You're nursing. If you want to be a nurse and you want to work for yourself, then you have to open your clinic and you have to get all the licenses in place and you have to purchase your medication and run your clinic. But you cannot run your clinic then and work for the ministry, rather for JFK, Jackson Dole Hospital, or Redemption Hospital. You can't do that. So those nurses who I don't know who said that, but the nurses who would work in America, say for instance in the University of Pennsylvania Hospital or the Albert Einstein Hospital, all these top hospitals in the Pennsylvania area, and say that they're going to take medication home and go treat patients, then they're taking a risk, because they're going to lose their license if they get caught, and they're going to go to jail. Absolutely.
Okay. On that note, we have with us the agent of positive change, a professional media colleague who turned evangelist, Mr. Gerard Cummins. Gerard, this topic is not something that is strange to you, especially for your many years of practice as it relates to journalism in Liberia, conflict of interest. And we started off with the Ministry of Education, where the minister there, as he holds that position, a very distinct position, high distinct position, he operates his personal or private institution top notch that is conflict of interest. And we had a guest here a couple of nights ago that said 30% of the higher ups at the Ministry of Education, they have their private schools. And they will tell you, if you can't afford this institution, go to where you can afford it. And that's just on education. I want you to chime in, and then we'll continue with the health, the security apparatus, and other institutions where the people practice conflict of interest every day and walk away with impunity. This has been going on for years, and nobody seems to care about this. Gerald, you might want to unmute your phone, please, or device. We still can't hear you, Gerald. I don't know what's going on.
Can you hear me?
Now we can hear you.
Hello?
We can hear you now, Gerald.
Are you sure?
Jared, you're good. We can hear you.
You're loud and clear. You're good. Again, we're losing you again, Jared. I don't know what's going on. You might
want to listen to us through that earpiece.
Yeah, you might want to please tweak the. We can't hear.
He needs to get rid of the earpiece. You remember one of our callers has similar situation.
Right. If you can just get rid of the earpiece, that would be fine, Gerald.
If I put you on mute, when you talk to me, I won't hear you. I think that's what's happening.
I can hear
you.
I
guess you're hearing me now.
That's right. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to work on something here quickly. Give me a few minutes, ASHFORD. Let me be able to hear you when you ask me questions, because right now I only see your head moving, but I can't hear you. But I know you're hearing me loud and clear.
Okay. Okay. As we wait for Gerald to come in, then one of the areas that we found out through the media institutions about conflict of interest, the deputy director for NSA, the National Security Agency, Sam Sion. Sam Sion operates Freedom FM. And when you listen to some of the jingles, they say, we are neutral, we are balanced. But this guy works for the government. And yes, he uses his station to run the propaganda of the government. Number one, we're also told that Sam Sion runs a construction company. And I will leave it at that when you continue. And then after that, Jerry can come in when he's able to hear us now. Jerry, can you still hear us now? Go ahead, Shelton.
He's still working things out. Yeah, so yeah, it's no secret. In fact, it's all over the media that Sam Sion, the deputy NSA boss, is the one who owns Freedom FM. Freedom FM is pro-government from all of the research we've done, you and I. But it's just a few days ago, our good media friend and brother, Daniel Rogers, called himself now the sheriff, who does the program Liberia Under the Microscope, or somewhere in Banga. And it's called the Frog Island area. And it's alleged that Sam Sion owns a construction company that took contract to build this huge market building. And what is standing right now is a slab of concrete structure with some crushed rocks covered by grass and a little warehouse they have there. And nothing has happened. And so this project is now sleeping. But we've seen that a lot. We've seen that a lot with public officials having their own construction companies now, taking these contracts through the government because it's all, they're all in the cahoot. Those people who are awarding the contracts, you, my man, I gave you the contract. You have no track record of construction work, but we gave you the contract. You take the big money up front. You grab a few guys to put some sand together, get some concrete, start the project, the foundation, and then they disappear and nothing comes out of it. So probably it's one of those things, but we can follow up. But again, Daniel Rogers did do a video on that, and the structure now stands in Bone County.
Now, speaking of the construction, okay, and speaking of the administrative of public works, I happened to be in Liberia just last month, and I said, let me go and see the work activities at the RIA highway. So when I went up there, Shelton, it appeared like a complete joke. It is not a short distance from the RIA to ELWA junction.
It's about 25 miles.
And I'm thinking to myself, can these guys complete this project between now and 2022 or 2023? You have 2 to 3 excavators. And at the time when we got there, this gentleman or ladies left and went, the librarian said they went for 12.
I like that.
Yeah, they went for 12.
Yeah, they're going for 12. That lunch break.
A serious construction company will have 3 shifts for the magnitude of this type of job.
Absolutely. We see it right here in America.
When we went further down to see these guys, they said, listen, we can do the job, but the equipment is still at the port. When they bring the equipment, then we will start the job. I said, do you have the capacity? Can you guys really do this job? Oh, yeah. I said, but give us some testimonials about some of the works you've done in the past. And he went further to say, Kakata Highway by Gibby, who did some job there, and I can show you that we'll be able to do the job. Only to find out, to give some allegation that the former Minister of the Public Works and, of course, the Minister of State for Presidential Affairs, they have a stake in this thing. So they will tell these small construction companies, listen, I will give you the contract, but I need a share in this. Our country can never develop under this nonsense, Shelton.
And you're right, Ashford. That's what I said.
Back and forth, decades out, and nothing seems to happen as it relates to our country.
And you're right. You've seen it firsthand. And that's what I'm saying, because I'm the minister. My buddy, Gerald Cummings, comes to me and says, my man, I just started something. But there's no track record of Gerald Cummings doing anything, because Gerald Cummings now tend to a BM in construction. You got BM in many things. So Gerald Cummings now is a BM in construction. He comes to me. I say, oh, but Gerald, listen. But the thing that easy stuff, the whole contract is in my hand. We got the money already. A lot of the finance ministry going to cut the check. So listen, the check going to be $10 million. I just need my $3 million out of it. And go ahead and do what you got to do. $3 million out of $10 million, that's a good chunk of money. So Gerald starts the contract. Along the way, things happen. And Gerald walks away. The company, no record, nothing. Gerald disappears. He comes and sit down in America. Or Gerald goes sit down somewhere else. And then nobody gives a crap. Because when the pressure is put on me, I just go to the president and say, my man, this is what happened. But here you caught $1 million. I say, okay, he slapped me on the wrist and life goes on. This is what happening in our country. I think Gerald ready to come now.
Gerald, hello.
Hello, ASHFORD, can you hear me now?
Yeah, loud and clear. I know you've listened, you've heard.
Can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm hearing you guys.
Good.
Go ahead and come in, Gerald.
Okay, like I said earlier on, thank you so much for the opportunity. And I want to extend my season greetings or Happy New Year to you and VOLCANO SHELTON. it is, I consider this a blessing as well. Most especially when we were rap musicians. Shelton used to MC a lot of shows. Now I found myself in walking in his shoes, something that they left so many years back in Liberia. But like you said, the Ministry of Education, the boss, has a private school. How can he regulate the policy of the Ministry of Education when he have his institution, people that work with the Ministry of Education or working in the educational sector, their salary cannot commensurate their work. But his school, the people are taking pay on time, and they're demanding that the students pay their school fees on time. But government institutions are not even receiving funding. To those government schools are not even receiving funding. The minister don't care. All he knows, his institution, no subsidy going there. Moreover, demonstration is not getting subsidy. Project in the banners, Stephen Toba Estate or the Goodrich or the different schools, government schools, they're not getting subsidy. I don't care. And my institution is making money. My people are taking paid on time. My account growing every day. I can go on vacation when I leave government job. To hell with the masses. I'm going to enjoy anyway. So how can this man regulate the policy of the Ministry of Information in the educational sector? It's almost like something that happened in the country some years back when Dr. Tob Slevian, when he was given a position by Madame Sali to head the higher commission at the Ministry of Education, Dr. Slevian was closing down private institutions and saying, oh, you know, they never met the requirement. But when we tried to quiz him, there was nothing for higher education as it relates to religious education in the country. But some of his friends were running institutions that did not meet the requirement of the Ministry of Education or never met the requirement of the Ministry of Education. So the thing of conflict of interest in Liberia is actually is common. 12 years ago, it was there. 12 years before the 12 years that ended, now we got this group. It is something that is so common. The guys working, you have people working at JFK. They got their private clinics. I'll give you a typical example. My late father used to go to JFK to practice. My father called me and said, look, my man, if I get sick, nobody carry me to JFK because if I go to JFK, I would die. Simple reason was most of the medication, I had the money, but then I will have to leave JFK to go outside. A doctor would recommend me to go outside to a clinic that he worked with or have shared in to get medication. That's conflict of interest. And we find it all over the place. But you have somebody working with the NSA. He owns a radio station. He owns a radio station. He has a construction company. That man and the public works minister are in cahoot. They're giving him government contract. His company does not even meet the requirement, does not even have the equipment to rehabilitate any road. I saw a first hand with Kofi Woos. First hand with Kofi Woos. That's why today, Senator Dillon and myself can't talk. Because I staged a project, I staged a protest, no road, no vote. Now, watch the thing. I was working for Benin Ayure. Clemenceau Ure running against Geraldine Doe-Sherry. Dillon and myself come from the same community in the Gardner's end. Dillon asked me and the defense minister to stand down. I told them, no, I can't stand down. Either they face the road or we still keep the marketers and the pen people on the road. We go to public work ministry. The government sent for me to go to public work ministry. Went to public work ministry. Kofi Woods look at me and say, well, the government ain't got money to do those little feeder roads or do the Gardner's and the Gardner's road. I said, the thing is simple. There's something called county development funds.
Those county development funds are allocated to do some of these small projects. If you can pave the road, but if you can use lateral rocks on the road to sustain us during the rainy season, will be okay. DeLong was sitting right in our office. Butte back on the superintendent was there. We had a conversation. Butte said, no, we got money. Kofi Wu said, no, we ain't got money. I said, so then you expect me to take the people off the street? It will not work. DeLong said, my man, you know, that wait until the election. I said, no, DeLong, I will stay here until we find a common ground, or else I put the people back on the road. Do you know that Kofi Wu had people who he was working along with? He was giving contract to people who were his friends and had share. I'm not telling you myth, I'm telling you real story. But these are the people who are in the vanguard and are in the vanguard today talking about change when they know that they will not affect these changes in our country.
But Gerald, where does the bus stop? I mean, let me be straight up to you and Shelton. Do we have political parties in Liberia, or we have social clubs? Social clubs in the sense that these guys don't hold any loyalty. For example, Gerald Cummings is with Party A, and when he sees that Party A is no longer in the position to do well, then he gives his loyalty to Party B. This is what we see going on today. So when can we say, okay, this is Party B? When do you begin to develop your country? Would you wait until you become the president before you start to develop your country? Or would you begin showing your country or the community what you can do first, and then later declare? When will the community members say, you know what, based on what you've done, we want to petition you to run for office? But all of these people wait and say, you know what, it is the government's responsibility to develop the country. Why is it in the law that only the government is supposed to develop the country? So these political parties are not really political parties. They are all social clubs. And George Weah is the last president to walk away scot-free, because the people have gotten smarter. The people know now that you can't fool them anymore. When you want to become president of Liberia, you start doing something, and then when you get there, you can do even more. But you don't come and say, you know, when I become president, I will do this and do that. Complete nonsense. Gerald and Shelton.
But wait, you know, Ashford, talking about that, there's something called social responsibility, right? All of us have social responsibility. If we all say we are patriotic citizens, we love our country, then we must practicalize those things that we believe in terms of development in our communities, in terms of development in our different institutions. Living up to the standard, setting precedent will help to curtail some of the malpractices of what we're talking about, conflict of interest. You live in a community, you have social responsibility. You see in the role is so bad. You have country development funds. You have the superintendent living in your community. You have your representative living there, and the roads are bad. They all see the road, but they are waiting for national government to do something, whereas they are part of the government, where they are citizens that reside in those areas. Because if we try to count on the political parties things are seasonal. Only doing political events or a by-election, a senatorial election, you know, that's when, or the general presidential election, that's when you see these people. So it is incumbent upon us, the citizens who find ourselves in those communities, to better organize ourselves and, you know, make our social responsibility proactive, so as to start from somewhere that when the government see these things, or people see it that actually in his community in Cinco, the man is taking the initiative. He's doing things to bring the community, up to standard. Others are here in the community. Like Brani Samuka, when we were in Bandersay, Brani Samuka was the only man taking his money from Bandersay Junction straight to Kaiba every other time. But on that road, you had the Solicitor General living there. You had a former Assistant Minister for Information and Culture and Tourism, Gabriel Williams, were over there. You had Willie Rikings. You had Beauty Barker. You had Dave Kuhlman. You had former Speaker Ellis Tyler. I mean, the government official lists go on and on, but they would drive on that road. They will go to town. They will come back. But Brani Samuka was the only person taking the initiative to give the road a facelift, to put some little lateral rights there, at least to sustain the people for 2 to 3 months. So most of these people, they only come in the political picture only when the political season is hot. So the citizen must take the social responsibility of some of these things instead of us waiting for the government. That's why we need patriotic individuals, innovative thinkers to wake up. When you have innovative thinkers waking up, helping to mold the minds of the people, not waiting for an election season to show up and say, well, my name is ASHFORD GARLEY, and now you know me, I'm ready to run, when ASHFORD was not even proactive in the community. So it leaves some of the electors in a state of oblivion now. They don't even know what to do. They just find anybody and say, well, this man going to be our representative. 6 months later, they start crying.
Shelton, my brother Thomas here said something about library. The wise man once said, what's his name? Jim Rohn. He said, life change does not begin with motivation. Life change does not begin with inspiration. Life change begins with education. Because when you motivate idiot, you just motivated idiot. The same with the inspiration. When you educate somebody, Thomas said there's no library in the country. You heard Mr. Jackson when he came the other time. He said even the top-notch institutions, they have reading room. There's no library in the country. Our brothers and sisters are illiterate. Can some of these susu clubs turn into a real political party and start to do something before even deciding to run for office? Shelton?
Well, before Brother Shelton come in, Thomas, do some research, please. The Borough of New Kutan Association, they open a library. There's a public library in the borough. They just launched it, I think, some years back. It's there. It's a public library.
All right, we can check that out. But let me come in quick when you talked about government not being able to do everything. Of course, government shouldn't do everything. But does government and its officials create an enabling environment for social corporate responsibility, as Gerald talked about, to take place? No, because the people are too corrupt. There's so much conflict of interest. Say, for instance, Volcano, ASHFORD, and Gerald decide to go and build a bank in Monrovia. When we go to build that bank, the set government of Monrovia should be the one on the table with us, having that discussion as to what are we going to do for the community. And if you look around here in America, most of the big institutions are built by private businesses, the arenas. You see the American Airlines arena, you see the Wells Fargo arena, and all these things. Do you think that if the city of Philadelphia city council was taking bribes up front, those arenas will be built? No, those arenas will never be built. But they allow these people to bring the blueprint to see how much they're going to put into it and do those things for the community. It is not happening in Liberia. And until these people who in power let the people decide for the community. So if Gerald, Volcano, and ASHFORD are going to put a banking conglomerate in Gardnersville, then it is the local government that should be sitting with us at the table. If you put this bank here, we also want you to fix the road for people to be able to come to the bank. Or each Jonathan Goodrich High School is struggling, so we want you to take on that as a social corporate responsibility to revamp the school. That's the first benefit we want. But that's not happening. And Gerald, you and I know that's where it should happen, at the local level. But everything must happen in central government, and all the people in central government are there to gain wealth. And so when these people come, they get frustrated. If I have to pay all this up front, then what would be left for me to open a bank? You and I go now, we got to get this license. We got to get our license. We got to go through this. This person telling us how much the president wants before he signs it, how much the minister wants before he signs it. Then the little money we're going to go build a structure with, all gone. Then we say, in fact, before we do this, let's pack our bag and leave here. That's the deprivation of national development to create quality livelihood for the people, because everything is done in central government and nothing gets funneled down to the local community. And that struggle will continue. So that's one part. But then you talked about the second piece. Our political parties do much when it's all about everybody coming for the same reason. Want to be president, want to be senator, want to be representative, because it is the new phenomenon of wealth gain. This is the new phenomenon. So Ashford, we have a serious issue here. And I told you this topic is the reason why Liberia is where she is today. It is serious. And the three of us here know it. The Liberian people know it. And so if we want to hear from some of them, because quite frankly, this is a serious problem.
And Shelton, speaking about the significance of this topic, this is the first time where we've seen these numbers. I mean, for Facebook, we agree. Sometimes we touch the numbers. But on YouTube alone tonight, we are over 400 people watching just on YouTube. So this is a big deal.
It is.
This topic is dearest to their hearts. So why don't we go to the telephone line?
But I saw
Gerald, 1 minute. After Gerald, we'll go to the telephone line and have our audience, chip in as well. Go ahead, Gerald.
And just so you know, too, we also have a little more bullets to cover, just to remind you.
Of course.
Okay, good.
He Shelton talk about local government. This is the reason why it is very important now, Shelton, that municipal government in our country, our city mayors, right? Mm-hmm. Superintendents
shouldn't be appointed.
Elected, not appointed.
I know.
But today we having mayors who have they appointed them, superintendents. They're not doing anything. So if somebody you talk about Gardner State, look at the industrial park in Gardner State. That whole industrial park now is a residential area. The people sold everything. Everything from Magic Factory to Chikisu Factory to the Union Glass Factory.
Shoes factory and all. I think shoe factory on that road, right?
Yeah, shoe factory on that road. But the building, the structure is still there. But when you get around the LPRC side, the whole industrial park where they had the biscuit factory, the candy factory, the Magic Factory, the Union Glass Factory that was built by the Libyan government, that whole area, the people finished selling it. Only because you had a commissioner who was appointed and was selling at randomly.
Because that's the way they could make money.
Okay, gentlemen, hold on thought. Thank you. Let's go to the line. We have a 405 number. The last 4 digits of your number, 776. Hello, tell us your name.
Yeah, Mr. Garley. This is Charles A. Barkley calling from Oklahoma.
Mr. Barkley, hello and welcome to the show. Happy New Year. Go ahead and make your point real quick. You have 1 minute, please.
Okay. The real problem here you guys are discussing concerning all of those issues is the Liberian Constitution. Our Constitution, we need a new Constitution. The 1986 Constitution limits Liberia in a whole different form. The central government has too many powers that does not belong to it. You got superintendent, you got the 2 assistant superintendents for development and physical affairs, you got the district commissioners, the clan chief, the paramount chiefs. Those are all appointed. Why do you need a Ministry of Public Works? Those institutions can be broken down and given to the county. You need to decentralize Liberia. Decentralizing Liberia does not mean you should open offices of each of those departments in each of the counties. What you need is, you need to have a shared responsibility. The Ministry of Public Works, the Ministry of Health, National Fire Service, National Police, and a couple other institutions.
Thank you, Mr.
Those
Bartlett.
things should be given down to the counties.
Thank you so much. Thanks for calling. We have a 334 number. The last 4 digits of your number, 8224. Hello, tell us your name.
Desmond.
Desmond, hello. You have just 1 minute. Go ahead and make your point, please.
Yes, my point is Shelton is exactly right, man. Everything he's saying will help grow the top. The problem here in America, across the world, is the same. Nobody wants the young and low people to have anything. Shelton, I applaud you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay. Gerald, you were speaking there before we went to the line, so just continue from there. We'll go to Shelton and then touch on.
I know Shelton and myself on the same path with municipal government. We need to elect more people.
Hold on, Gerald. They're bringing this call. Hello, caller. Speak through the microphone and not the receiver. Hello, caller. Okay. You know, most of them like to hear themselves. And, go ahead, Gerald. Gerald, are you there?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
You know, like I said earlier on, and one of the callers just made mention of something, right? There was no need to get rid of the Ministry of Rural Development. All the government needed to do was to revamp rural development. Public Works can still be where they had it, and revamp the rural development in a sense where you give them more equipment. All these different concession agreements that were coming in the country, getting enough yellow machine. We will not take 3, 4, 5 days or 2 weeks to go to Bokanjile, or you take almost 3 weeks to get to Chien or get to some of the county, Bapulu, all those places. Just revamp rural development. Most of the county development funds, rural development, get people to manage it so that we can have more roles in our country. By this time, I think when we used to talk about them not closing rural development down, we'll have, most of the country's role in good condition. But people got rid of rural development and they built small companies. They were working in cahoot with the Public Works Minister. You had Minister Kamara just to build the road from Jalatan to 9th Street to 12th Street. The guy took money. We thought the president was going to even fire the man. She took the man and made him an advisor on public works. Just between Jalatan, where they have old maternity center, to come to 12th Street at the back there. Small road. The people invested the money. And the president took the man and made him a special advisor to her on public works. It's just laughable. So to just keep him around, whatever company he had or company that were building roads so they can chop. And at that time, Chico, the same company that were building the road, was the same company doing the road in Fassaman, in Conakry. When I went to Guinea, was the same company. But the people caught. They put all kind of those small company for Chico to work along with them. They cut the money. Look at the roads now. Durability, longevity, there's nothing.
Okay, Gerald, thanks. And shut up. We're going to stick to the time tonight, 1 hour, 30 minutes. But just before we touch on this next segment, next Monday, we'll have George Solo. George Solo, the former chair of CDC, wants to be representative of District 3, Grand Julia County. He wants to occupy the seat of the former representative, who is now Senator-elect Zoe Penner. So George Solo will be our guest next Monday on Bridge Radio Africa. Shelton, let us talk about this allegation that public officials are hiring their family members and relatives in institutions where they are head. Nepotism at its peak. If this is not conflict of interest, then you say what it is. Some go to the extent of violating the policies put in place. And these public institutions don't say anything. And the founding members continue to do this thing over and over again. Shelton?
So yes, so some of the institutions have vetting process that put in place by its internal structure, and sometimes the hiring process and at the board level. So this person has to go through all of the different interviews. When I got my job, I had to go through 2 layers of interviews. I went through the first level of a panel, and I went at a higher level of another panel, meaning executive director, vice president together. Unfortunately, in Liberia, the minister, if that position is a position that requires the board to make that decision, the minister usurp the power and appoint that person because they have the confidence of the president. And then the board become, a toothless bulldog. And that's how many of these people are ascending into positions in these ministries without going through the proper channel. And that's part of nepotism. But again, it was alleged that President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf came to power and said, okay, you're the minister, you go ahead and bring the people who you think you're comfortable working with. That's a floodgate for me to bring all my cronies and all my boys to run an institution. So then that takes away what the civil service should do. But who knows whether the civil service itself was not also giving people jobs because the civil service director had people who he had interest in. So this thing is just a mess. It's a mess. And Gerald, you can chime in because I'm sure you were in Liberia. You follow most of these things, these allegations about the president giving, unilateral power to the minister to bring on board some of the chief lieutenants to work with him or her.
I mean, that was something that was taking place within all sectors of government. Typical example, the president herself had her brother at the Internal Affairs Ministry who was allegedly involved into corruption. Allegedly involved in corruption. Another example, Lawrence Brockland, Albert Brockland at LTA. When Albert Brockland's situation came about, Albert went to court. Lawrence Brockland went to court. The former minister at the Ministry of Internal Affairs, having to be the brother of the president, never went to court. So she was protecting her brother, but Lawrence Brockland and his brother, Albert Brockland, were going to court. We saw in different institutions of government, even including the lawmakers themselves. In this country, when you walk to a representative office, 99% of the people in there are resourceful people. They are not family members, they're not brother, they're not sister, they're not uncle. So when these people go do a research for Representative GARLEY, these people understand the issue. So when Representative GARLEY get on the floor to deliberate on issues, he speaks as somebody who has command over everything, but it is his resourceful people that he hired in his office to do this work. But when you have your brother, you tell the man to go do a piece of work, the man sit down and say, oh, my man, tomorrow when we meet to the office, we'll do it. The Liberian people business, they sweep it under the bus.
Hold it there, Gerald. And Shelton, somebody said there's no law in our constitution that stops or prevents somebody from having a private clinic at the same time, the work at a government-owned or health facility. Now, health practitioners at public health facilities, the likes of JFK, Redemption Hospital, clinics, etc., take away the drugs and equipment to their homes. As nurses, they treat people in their communities with hospital drugs and get paid. How do you term that, Shelton?
But in the first place, this caller who continues to talk about the Constitution is one part of the organic law that governs our country. But conflict of interest is one of those things that put in place an institution for accountability purpose. So he keeps talking about the Constitution. Let's leave the Constitution alone and talk about what best practices are. We're talking about best practices here. You can never have institutions functioning to its full capacity on a neutral basis with accountability as prudent as possible if you have conflict of interest. So let us leave the Constitution and focus on what best practices are and the things that are supposed to enhance the development of our people and our country. But that's a good question. Nurses, health practitioners, some of them could be LPN. Some of them could be nursing aid, like you have here in America. Who gives her the right to give injection? Who gives her the right to prescribe medication to people in the community? There's a serious matter. Those people could die. Who's going to be responsible for the death? So this is a serious problem. And for people to continue to talk about the Constitution not going to cover everything. It is just what we're talking about here tonight, that it is important for us to know what best practices are. What are the things that continue to keep our country backwards? And somebody also said we can't blame from 1847 to now on President Weah. We're not blaming President Weah for the things of 1847. We're blaming President Weah for the things of 2018 to 2021. President Weah vowed to do many of these things and change them. And if 2018 to 2021, he continued to be lackadaisical on his functionaries of the president and hold people accountable and reshuffle and change people and throw them, to jail because they're shaming his government, then that's on him. So people got not miss the mark here. We don't hold anything against this president, but if you say that this house has not been painted since 1847, I'm coming to paint this house, and you come now, we're going 3 years, and you can't paint the house, who are we going to blame, Ashford? Who are we going to blame, Gerald?
Okay.
We're going to blame the head of the house.
Okay.
Who said he was going to paint the house?
That's right. Hold that thought. We're coming to Gerald, but let's go to the line. Then Gerald. Hello, caller. Tell us your name.
Hey, my name is Vani Vasily. I'm calling from Pennsylvania.
You're live on the radio. Go ahead and make your point, please.
Yeah, firstly, I want to comment on what Shelton was talking about the Constitution. I think when we're talking about practices, our practices should be in line with the Constitution that can hold everybody accountable for whatever you say or whatever you do. But if we can put the Constitution aside, then what are we going to hold people responsible for what they have done wrong? That's one point. The nepotism we're talking about, it is because we have not paying attention to the Constitution. This is why people are taking advantage of the Liberian people in leadership. Because if we were upholding the Constitution and we were enforcing, the leadership have been enforcing the breach of the Constitution, this is happening today won't happen. For instance, 3 boys were taken by Moses. Up to now, there's no account of whether they are alive or dead. Government is silent on it. Nobody can punish the government. You see, most of the time, people calling George Weah, they're not just calling me because they're stupid. George Weah is the head of the state.
Thank you, my brother. Your time is up. Your 1 minute is up. Thank you so much, and thanks for calling the show. Okay, Shelton, we have about 24 minutes to go. And hello, caller.
Yes, hello.
Yeah. Tell us your name, please. You have just 1 minute. Tell us your name and where do you join us from tonight?
Mapla is my name, and I'm calling from Drexel Hill, PA.
Hey, Mapla,
I just wanted
Welcome to the show.
Hi, Ashford. How are you?
Good.
I just wanted to add to what Shelton was addressing earlier about nurses practicing in their own homes. I've witnessed firsthand where nurses aid, those who are considered nurses aid here in America. In Liberia, they are administering injections. They are inserting IVs. And I saw those things as a nurse myself. I cried and said to myself, these are the things our people are going through. And it's only by the grace of God that those things are happening. And I've seen in my own family, my niece is a nurse aide. She was administering IV to her mother when I went to visit recently. And I was like, that's why people are dying, because people are taking IV. Where did she get the IV from? From her job, and brought it home. That's some of the issues we are addressing tonight. So there are guidelines in America that guide nurses. We have standard of practice. We have best practices that we go by. But in Liberia, it's not the case. So that's really sorrowful.
Thank you so much. Okay, gentlemen.
Yeah, ASHFORD.
Yeah.
Let me just quickly, address this guy in the Constitution. I did not negate the Constitution here. I didn't say that the Constitution should not hold people accountable. The Constitution is the law of the land, and everyone must respect the Constitution. What I said was certain things are best practices. The code of conduct is one of the things that, prevents conflict of interest. And if no one is following the code of conduct, then of course there will be conflict of interest. But people just think that the Constitution is all to everything, irrespective of the Constitution, we still have to know what is right and what is wrong. That's what I'm trying to establish.
Okay, Sheldon, thank you. And I will do a part 2 of this show. We have a 609 number. The last 4 digits of your number, 7817. Please tell us your name.
My name is Joel Bemba, and thank you for the show. I just want to make my point.
1 minute, please. Go ahead, make your point.
All right. So basically, it's on the issue of the conflict of interest. And I think that's one of the major problems we face in Liberia. So, for example, the Constitution gave the lawmakers specific duties, oversight duties over certain sectors. Now, those very lawmakers turn around and they are running business in those sectors. Let me give you a classic example. And a classic example is Barney Sherman. Now, Barney Sherman owns a law firm. And I think all of you follow the sanction case. And because he's senator, when he gets cases, he tried to go and manipulate the legislature to change the law to favor his client, And up to this time, the Liberian National Bar Association, they are not even taking any strong measure against him, I would have expected that they would take strong measures against him, So that is continuing to, the private sector cannot grow. If, for example, you get government officials going after these contracts, how will private businesses grow? It can't grow. So what we have here at the end of the day, we continue to have a cycle of poverty over and over because no one is respecting the law. So that's just my point. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. My sister, Julate Cassell, I didn't forget about you. I know we talked the last time when I got back home from Liberia, and we will have a pending show for you and the rest of the folks. Abu Bebeto Fofana, thank God you are back, and thank the Almighty for your speedy recovery. Gerald, I want you to come in, and then we'll go back to Shelton as we get closer to wrapping up the show tonight.
I mean, I sure we said it all. And there's a need for part 2 because this is a lengthy discussion. I think it is going to, like Aristotle once said, he said, poverty is the parent of revolution and crime. And if they have not continued to increase in number, that state will soon collapse. And we see our state collapsing almost every day. And if time is not taken, we'll go to a place where we may likely not recover from, because the issue of nepotism, people kind of thwarting the system, playing on the minds of the masses. They get into power, they say one thing today, they do something else tomorrow. I mean, we saw the discussion we're having today, we saw it with the GMA, where GMA officers were people who came from the Western world. But right under the watchful eyes of GMA, people were thwarting the system. People were stealing right under the watchful eyes of GMA. All the reports are there. Nobody pay attention to those other reports 12 years. You have a government that come into power. The government come into power because somebody got $30 million deed. They said, no, we'll protect ASHFORD. Protect ASHFORD in what sense? Okay, they have one typical example. The case with the late Chairman Judith Bryan. The late Chairman Judith Bryan, when Madam Salih then decided to go after Bryan, there were big names in that audit report, ECOWAS audit report, some of whom were sitting at LPRC, the different institutions in the country. But they chose Bryan as a sacrificial lamb. Madam Salih and Kabina Janet, then they chose him as a sacrificial lamb to use him as a yardstick to set precedent for themselves. But then this government come into power to go to the GSC audit report, to visit the audit report and say, we'll protect Madam Salih. Conflict of interest. ECOWAS didn't do us a good job. They knew the names of people that were in that report, but they allowed Bryan, the late Bryan, may his soul rest in peace, to walk from Justice Ministry in a $25 slippers to Morovia Central Prison, when you have people today who sitting in chambers, whose names are in that document. You have people today who, some of whom want to be president in our country, their names are in the audit, the ECOWAS audit report. But ECOWAS keep her mouth shut. They make Madam Salih the darling of the West, the darling of the ECOWAS leaders. You killing me? And we see a reoccurrence. We're seeing a reoccurrence with this current government. That's why the day you bring in George Solo on, I'll be around.
Yeah, he's coming on next.
I will pray to be around. I will pray to be around so we can quiz him.
As a matter of fact,
free ride.
Listen, as a matter of fact, the invitation is yours to be one of the panelists next Monday when George Solo comes on. And Shelton, we have just 18 more minutes to go. And the topic tonight is very fascinating. And you can tell from the responses from the viewers, both on YouTube and, of course, the social media and our local platforms in Liberia. And that's what we will do our best here at Bridge Radio Africa, to be neutral as possible, where the government can dictate to us. Those who find themselves in the opposition can do the same. I'm too old to be micromanaged, Shelton. When you work for people, then you own their term. They'll tell you what to do and what not to do. We, here at Bridge Radio Africa, it is your chance to come on, or you don't show up, but we'll ask you the hard questions. Our country needs a different. If you ask me, in my book, George Weah is done. George Weah is finished. But who replaces George Weah? Do we have political parties in Liberia, or we have susu clubs? No loyalty. 1 minute you with Liberty Party, the next minute, because you get a few $1,000, you switch gear and you are with another party. I am going to Liberia next month. And Shelton, we're going there to hold these so-called political parties, who I refer to as susu clubs, to stand up and do something for Liberia, and not for themselves.
You carrying me with you? You carrying me with you?
I was thinking about it.
Okay. I know you said something here, but let me be honest with you. You talked about you too old to be micromanaged. I will come back and say I'm too educated, qualified, and competent to be micromanaged and to be compromised.
Age has to do with education.
Yeah, I'm just saying. No, I'm just adding up to what you said.
Yeah,
and I'm just adding up to what you said, to be micromanaged and to be compromised.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, no matter what you gain in this world, you die. You only go with your soul. Even your body decayed and stay here. So, Gerald, don't let me talk Christianity right now. Don't tell me. Don't let us go there. But I will hope to be a guest on your show one of these days. But the truth is, it's unfortunate. There's a viewer here called Patrick Yinka is asking. He agrees with us, but people need to be held accountable for the things to do. How can we hold these people responsible? What is the instrument? Patrick, the instruments are there. We have the policies in place. We have the laws in place. It's just the implementation. It is the lack of the implementation. That's why the people continue to do it, because everyone is in the game together. Don't tell me say there's no law. Gerald just gave you an example. When people want to make laughing stock out of the people they consider their rival or their adversaries, they do those things. They grab the late Judith Bryant and they walk him in the $25 slippers to central prison. That was what they did. They could do the same thing for Prince Johnson if they wanted to. The Truth and Reconciliation Commissioner was just here the other night. She talked about most of the recommendations they put forth to hold these people to the fire and to hold them accountable. Ban them from politics, ban them from public office. But that has to be done. So yes, all these things are in place. It's just the implementation that lacking. And until somebody with spine, a government with spine, a president who comes to power, we thought was the savior. This man came with a blank slate. Man. And he still mute. So don't ask that question, brother. We have all the laws, we have all the instruments. It's just the lack of implementation because everybody is benefiting. Okay. That's all it is.
We're going to take one last call up and then we'll walk around the room and call it a night. Hello, caller. Tell us your name.
How you doing, ASHFORD? How you doing tonight, buddy?
Good. Give us your 1 minute. Go ahead. Tell us your name.
Yeah. Okay. My name is Ensu Balu. I'm calling from Boston, Mass. Let me just say one thing here. For me, look, I believe this. God left Liberia in 1990. Sometimes when I say, people tend to laugh, but it's true. There is no more morals in the country. Absolutely none. One of the biggest things about
when you say God left Liberia in 1990, I would just put a twist on it to say Liberia is the only country that giving God hard time.
But you know, I tend to laugh sometimes when I say that, ASHFORD. But just to say, the point I'm trying to make is everything that we held to a degree of value has left the country. Most of those people in power will not do what they're supposed to do. We in the diaspora, we have a great responsibility. That's why I love a show like yours. And sometimes people say, oh, you're just talking. What else are we supposed to do if you don't begin talking? This is a huge platform that if we don't talk about these things, they're not going to come to the forefront. So this is a big deal. People will say we're just talking. They don't understand what that means. But here's the point I'm trying to make. We in the diaspora, we have a great responsibility towards Liberia. Most of the people back home, I'll be frank with you, they're not even in the position to challenge some of the harms that are happening to the country. Most of the guys in the legislature, they will stop anything, any attempt, until we are truly willing to commit to the transformation of Liberia from abroad. It's not going to change. Look, the last time I was on another show, I said, let the American government put order on one ship. I was cheering everybody and saying all by on level face our country, by fire, by force. I know that is not possible, but the point I was trying to make is we have to commit skin, grind, and our money to changing the conditions in the country. Look, President Weah does not have the foundational preparedness to even understand what is happening to the country. It's a serious issue.
Thank you.
There has to be some serious things happening in Liberia before anything can change. Thank you so much, ASHFORD.
Thank you, Dwalu. Hey, gentlemen, we've come to closing statements, and I want to say a big thank you to you, Gerald. Shelton, as always, you know, this is what we do on a weekly basis. Hey, we'll keep talking about this until something happens. We are sick and tired with susu clubs. When will the real political parties stand up? Don't wait until you become president to do something. Start working now. What can you do now? Let the ordinary citizen say, you know what? I will petition this man to be president because of what he's doing for my country and the people of the country. We'll start with Gerald. We'll come to you, Shelton, and we can call this a night.
I will shoot you, my man, big brother. Thank you so much. I know you are going to laugh.
I know.
I like this.
I know where you come from. You know, we come a long way, Gerald. I know that. Yeah.
You know, these discussions are very important, but I come from different school of thought. Sometimes I speak as a journalist, sometimes I speak as a man of God. But I remember one thing very well. The Thanksgiving service before the inaugural program, the preacher said something. He said, Mr. President, I hope We went to all the institutions in this country to the interim team to check. We came across expenditure. I hope when you take over, Mr. Procrastinator will not be seen in an amulet to the hospital. Mr. President, we want you to be serious. We want you to checkmate government institutions. That was the service before the Thanksgiving, the inaugural program. I came on Facebook. I said, Liberians, after this message, if nobody eyes or ear is open to something, this man says something, and in a relatively short time, it will land on our lap. We didn't even go 6 months or 7 months. The reality started kicking in.
Okay.
But I hope and pray that it change. Maybe they can somersault. But my brother, you keep saying Susu Club. There's another club that they open already, so you still be the Susu Club.
We'll sit down for Friday. Okay, thank you. Shelton, closing statement. We got to go.
So, Ashford, the truth here is, for those who are Christian and believe in the Bible, and that includes President Weah, who is not preaching, when God was ready for his children to cross into the promised land, he raised a soldier, Joshua, when he said that Moses would not reach the promised land. Maybe President Weah is the Moses. So I'm hopeful that there will be a Joshua to get Liberia to the promised land. That would be my closing statement tonight. And that Joshua is around the corner. The soon coming Joshua will get us there. Let's keep praying. Let's keep being hopeful. And we will reach the promised land together. Liberia will rise again.
Thank you, Shelton.
Liberia will rise again.
Wow. Wow. Powerful closing there for Shelton. Oh, man. And folks, I'm afraid that's all the time we have to be with you tonight. God willing, we'll be back on Friday night, same time, same place. I want to say a big thank you to all of you, folks on YouTube, folks on Facebook. Listen, Liberia, listen, when I returned to the States a few weeks ago, I said I was going to go back to Liberia. I had no plans on how I was going to go back, but guess what? Just like that, I am going to Liberia next month. We are going to change the landscape of the media in that country, and I'm coming home. More details. With that said, tough times don't last, tough people do. The height of a man is never known until he rises, because there's no second chance to make that first impression. Don't see okra and swallow bone, because you can't hide your nakedness from bathing bucket. When God bless you, don't see that medicine. Don't see okra, because you know what? When crawfish come from underneath the water and say the crocodile is sweating, please don't say that lie. Trust those shadows in the dark, because a bald-headed man does not walk on the moonlight. The medicine of the microphone, the golden voice of Liberia, the broadcast commissioner, ASHFORD the giant, and now you know me, GARLEY. Have a good night.
Hey. Hey, sugar. Ingénieur Tumba Kinkela. Vocaba chargement. Oh, musique kitoko.